give me a couple of keys to the game for the Bears.
Well, for the Bears, there's going to be a few things that are going to be really important to coming out ahead this evening. First is starting strong. Cal has been enormously weak in the first quarter this year. They've only scored first once in 8 games, and that was against a fairly weak Washington State team. They've been outscored, Isaac, 58-17 in the first quarter by their opponents this year, and those deficits have proven very difficult to make up. You start behind the 8 ball in these games, and things really get difficult. So we're going to look for Maynard to come out strong to try and get comfortable early in the first quarter, which he's had trouble doing so far this year. And if he can get himself in the groove early in the game, I think that's going to be key. So starting strong is of paramount importance here.
And now, another thing I want to talk about, we should talk about some important players in today's game. I know we were talking about the running game for all 3 teams, but let's talk about some important key players for the Golden Bears today.
Well, I know this is sort of a broad declaration for discussing a couple specific key players, but I think it's important to discuss the California offensive line overall. Now, this includes both Rigsby's, Tyler and Jordan, Brian Schwenke, Adcock, and Matt Summers-Gavin, who had a very difficult time last week against Stanford. As we're familiar with, as you mentioned, Cal only got 3 rushing yards in that game, a dismal performance. And the reason for that, I think, in large part had to do with the ineffectiveness of the offensive line. They weren't opening up avenues for the Cal running backs, and they were not able to keep Maynard protected in the pocket. There were 4 sacks that game for 24 yards, and they overall did not look like they were doing their job very effectively right there. So that is point number 1. That's the first thing this Cal team has to do, and those are the players that have to excel tonight, that offensive line.
4th down and 3. We're 12 minutes, 55 seconds in this game. The kick is down, the kick is up, and it is good.
Got it. That is huge.
He got it. So Cal quickly gets on the board. Jamie, as you were saying, it's important that Cal scores those first 3 points. 12 minutes and 49 seconds. That's a huge break for the Bears.
It is. That was an efficient drive. They moved those chains very fast. Nicely done down the field. The only play that didn't quite work was a run straight up the gut. That was dropped immediately. But other than that, creative plays, some passing, some rushing. They didn't convert that 3rd down, but they got themselves to within field goal range. D'Amato converted it, and we see Cal immediately up here setting the tone, putting themselves out in front. We've got a 3-0 score with 12:49 left in the first quarter.
Calex really needs your help. This is a great time to show your Calex love, as D'Amato's kick is high and deep for the Bears. That one bringing it back for Utah up down to the left side. That looks like Devontae Christopher. Christopher still on his feet, gets back to the 40. He's got only 2 people left.
Oh,
40,
he's got a lane.
30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown Utah.
That is rough.
Quickly getting out of the way. That was very, very fast. It was done very, very quickly. Utah up 6-3.
Yeah, he got a lane pretty swiftly in the backfield, and the blocking was solid from there on out. And by the time he was at the 45, maybe the 50, you could see the path he was taking, and you could see that path was not going to be infringed upon by any Cal defender. And that is a real stomach punch to start for this Cal team, especially after how they started.
And the extra point added up is good. So Utah taking a 14-3 lead. And that's never a sign you want to see for the Bears. That's getting down quickly in a hole.
Yeah, the turnovers are back. That's the first one in this game. Just a tough tackle. Harper couldn't hold on to the ball. I grant you he was taken down by a couple players at once. But that, of course, will happen routinely in the game of football. And it's unfortunate that he wasn't able to hold on to the ball. Cal, once again, facing an enormous deficit early in a game.
But we've talked about him. We've talked about the freshman phenoms in Chris Harper and Bryce Treggs. How do the two complement each other on the field with their different styles of play?
Well, I think they do provide very excellent complements for each other. With Keenan Allen, he's great with the long catches downfield, and Harper, of course, and Treggs coming up as freshmen, doing a great job out there, and they are a very solid trio for this Cal offense. I would have to point out that this game so far, Cal has only had 4 total receptions, and those have been to Harper and Rogers alone. You don't see Triggs on the box score so far. You don't see Allen. So they are, multifaceted weapons, but they're not being utilized a lot tonight.
Yeah, the offense, which started pretty well, has ended up sputtering as of late.
It has, and we saw them look a little rough early on, put together some nice drives. Still, of course, no touchdowns. I don't know if they've even gotten inside the red zone so far. We've simply had a couple field goals, thanks to Vince D'Amato. But we have still seen Maynard continue to struggle with making big plays, getting long completions, and we've seen the results reflected in the scoreline. And looking at this half, coming into this, Cal's hoping to take an assertive lead, show that they are in this, show that they are in it to win it. And instead, it's on the verge of turning into a Utah romp. This place is, been going nuts for much of the second quarter, and they've had good reason to.
Means that Cal's on the short end of a 28-6 game. And, Jamie, how important is that the injuries been for this Cal team and how much harder they've had to work?
Well, they're incredibly important. I'd like to trace the sort of train of thought we had or the observations that we made throughout that first half. At first, they looked great. Stopping Utah no matter where they turned, rushing game, passing game, it was all good. But with three key injuries, I think it's fair to say this Cal defense is simply stretched thin. What happens toward the end of the half? It deteriorates. They're not able to make the same stops they were, and Utah is able to just make excellent drives repeatedly.
And the offense has got to get it going if Cal wants to keep going in this game.
Yeah, that time and possession in the second quarter, a distinction with 2 minutes versus 13 minutes. I have never seen anything like that in all my day of broadcasting. And it has just been a difficult second quarter, and let's see if Cal can turn it around as we start the second half. Well, this is the score right now is already the immense advantage of 35-6. This is turning into one of the largest margins of victory I'm sure that Utah has enjoyed in a long time and that Cal has suffered by. And they've played what were, just by the numbers, a lot better teams than Utah so far this year. One has to wonder, what is this and why? I am left with only questions, I suppose.
This time, Maynard, once again, his time in the gun. This time he hands off to Bigelow. Bigelow getting some room. Bigelow still on his feet. Bigelow 40, 30. He's off to the races. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, California.
It's like a breath of fresh air, man.
Breath of Rocky Mountain fresh air for Brendan Bigelow. Every time he's been on the field, Cal fans have had something to cheer about. D'Amato's kick is high and very, very deep. This one is taken in the end zone. That one is getting down toward the near side. That one is Reggie Dunn. Reggie Dunn still on his feet. Reggie Dunn, once again, he could go all the way. He's at the 30, the 25, the 20. He's got only one person left to beat. At the 10, he's making some move, and touchdown, Utah.
That was ridiculous. Reggie Dunn, again, this time an even more impressive run, found a lane, took advantage of it, and then just stepped his way in very nice twists and turns past the few remaining Cal defenders. That was a pretty run right there.
We've seen two electric runs in these last two games. It's now 48-13, Utah on top. Reggie Dunn getting it done with his feet. But it was Utah who did the right things at the right times on defense and on special teams that got this win for them.
Absolutely, and really coming into this game, I know we looked at it as definitely a winnable one for Cal, and Utah just chucked all the expectations we had for them out of the window. Coming into this game, they were last in the Pac-12 in total offense per game, just over 300 yards, and 11th out of 12 in scoring offense, just 20 points per game. They doubled that and then some in this game with 49 yards. 49 points for a 49-27 margin of victory. And that was just a very surprising performance that I think a lot of people in this stadium didn't entirely expect to see, regardless of which side they were on. And Utah bouncing back from their 0-4 start, Cal continuing to slide.
What happened in that game that Cal did well, because there were definitely things that they did well. And we have to agree that they did things well.
Right. Let's start here. As we've mentioned, and I think you just brought this up, total yards, Cal did have the advantage in this game. More specifically, passing yards. 288 for Cal, 156 for Utah. Now, where was Cal at their best? It was when they were running the no-huddle offense, lofting passes up the field with authority, and when Maynard had that quick-moving offense, when he was able to find open receivers, he was able to get significant yards. Cal, when they are moving, they move fast. And they, at the beginning of this game, I would say the first maybe 2 drives or so during the first quarter, and then at the end, we saw a fourth quarter in which Cal did outscore Utah 14-7, and in that fourth quarter, they had total yards 167 to just 36 for Utah. So we see there what they can do when this offense is clicking. One is only left to wonder, why was there that massive gap in the middle of this game that lasted actually, if you stretch out the definition of middle, throughout most of this game, in which that offense was not clicking. So yes, Cal did great things. They showed the talent that they have, but that talent was not there for the full 4 quarters tonight.
So Jamie, I want your final thoughts from today's game. What are they? What is the lesson you've learned, other than it was your first broadcast and it wasn't actually that hard?
Oh, it was the first broadcast, and it was actually ridiculously awesome, regardless of the outcome in this game. Well, in terms of learning, I don't know. I'd say I'd learned the depth to which this Cal team can fall in terms of ineffectiveness, and at the same time, the incredible talent that they show on the field. It was a pleasure to watch at times. Others not so much, but I think, and ultimately one has to realize it's all about consistency. And once again, looking to next week's game, that's what I think they'll hope to see in order to pull out a victory there.